transfer portal, high school commits, and the spring game, oh my, plus so much more coming at you next.
Give me my theme music!
Welcome to Buffs News Weekly, your weekly recap of all University of Colorado football news. I am your host, Russ Dordish. Make sure to hit that like, comment, and of course subscribe as we are on the trail for 1,000 subscribers. So, in the meantime, let's jump right in. First up, let's go through the departures of players in the last 2 weeks. Kicking it off, of course, is the biggest departure and biggest surprise, and that was running back Dylan Edwards. Edwards was a big part of the offense last year, and no one will forget the massive game he had against TCU. In the end, Dylan jumped in the portal, even though Pat Shurmur had said this spring that Dylan was an integral part to the offense that he was building. Edwards has now since committed to Kansas State University, his hometown team, where he had actually been committed multiple times before ending up with the Buffs. Another big departure from the 2023 class was defensive back Adam Hopkins. Hopkins was a 4-star high school prospect that excelled both at offense and defense. Early on during his time at Colorado, Hopkins switched from offense to defense. Hopkins saw very little playing time, however, last year, achieving only 4 tackles in that limited time. With Hopkins leaving, the 2023 recruiting class, the first one for Coach Prime, sees only 5 of its 21 players remaining. However, of the 5 remaining, almost all of them will either be starters or big-time contributors for the Buffs this upcoming season, based on what's happened so far this spring, which includes star receiver Omarion Miller, tight end Morgan Pearson, edge Tajay McCoy, and center, who is expected to start on the offensive line, Hank Zelinkas, to name just a few, as well as our backup quarterback Ryan Staub. Also leaving the Buffs was starting cornerback Omarion Cooper. Cooper was a big part of the defense last year, but with a number of new cornerbacks joining the team, Coop saw his spot on the depth chart get lower and lower. Cooper joined Colorado from Florida State and ended the season with 37 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and 5 passes defended. So far, Cooper has yet to find a new home for next season. Joining Dylan, Hopkins, and Cooper to round out the departures from the closing of the transfer portal this past week included walk-on quarterback Gavin Cold, Kofi Taylor Barracks, Bishop Thomas, Victory Johnson, J.J. Hawkins, and running back Savion Wilkerson. Out of those players, Wilkerson was a big part of the running game here, but also at Jackson State for Coach Prime. We wish all the players leaving the best of luck at their new teams and thank them for all the hard work that they put in as a Buff over the last year. Just remember the saying, always a Buff. When the portal closed, Colorado ended up losing a total of 41 players during both the winter and spring portal. Besides a handful of players that we have chronicled, a majority of the players that exited either did not contribute much at all or any last year, or saw them lose their starting spots to either returning players or new incoming transfers. Moving on to the transfers that came in after a massive recruiting weekend for the spring game, in which we will chronicle a little bit later on in the show, Colorado saw 11 players transfer in this past week. Most players transferring in expect to contribute right away at positions of need. Probably the biggest position of need after the spring game saw only one rostered player able to play was, of course, running back. And did ever Colorado add to that. Colorado added 4-star transfer from Ohio State, Dallin Hayden, and 3-star transfer from Miami of Ohio, Rashad Amos. Hayden was a big add as he has seen decent numbers in his limited time at Ohio State, and in fact, many Ohio State fans were looking forward to what Hayden could do in the future once he eventually became the starter, most likely after next season. 2 years ago in his freshman season, Hayden saw extended time due to injuries and performed quite well, rushing for 553 yards and 5 touchdowns. In his career, Hayden has a 5.1 yard per carry average. Many believe that part of the reason that Hayden came to Colorado was the opportunity to start, when at Ohio State there were 2 players ahead of him that probably formed the best running back combo in the country. With that, Hayden wanted to start, and so Colorado became that opportunity. Also coming in to hopefully combine with Hayden to form Colorado's own 1-2 punch is Rashad Amos, who rushed for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns last year. Amos also carries a 5.1 yard per carry average. Both Hayden and Amos should be the core to a new and improved running game, thanks to the also newly rebuilt offensive line. Heading back all the way to the day after our last video, Colorado kicked off a busy 2 weeks with getting 4-star transfer edge Dayon Hayes from Pittsburgh. Colorado already signed Pittsburgh edge Sam Okunlola earlier this winter, who played behind Hayes last season. Hayes comes to Colorado with a career total of 13 sacks and 26.5 tackles for a loss. Between Hayes, Okunlola, and other additions like BJ Green, Colorado has built up quite a pass rushing unit for next season. Colorado's number one priority leaving last season was, of course, the offensive line. Before even going into the spring portal, Colorado had completely revamped the line with additions of Tyler Johnson, Khalil Benson, Justin Mayers, and of course, 5-star number 1 recruit Jordan Seaton. Well, in the past 2 weeks, Colorado has added even more line depth, including more long-term depth with the addition of 3 more linemen. The Texas 2023 3-star recruit Peyton Kirkland has come into Colorado looking to team up with Seaton for the long term. Kirkland has battled a bit of injuries, but the 6'5", 395-pound Kirkland should help in the depth rotation coming up this season. Also coming in to compete for multiple seasons is Clemson transfer Zechariah Owens. The 6'5", 385-pound Owens is rated as a 4-star transfer. Owens played in 2 games last year, but ended up redshirting and will have 4 years of eligibility left alongside Kirkland, meaning that Owens, Kirkland, and Seaton could provide the offensive line depth that we've been looking for not only next year, but for seasons to come. The final addition to the line might factor a little bit more right away, and that is Michigan State 3-star transfer Ethan Boyd. Boyd stands at 6'7", 285 pounds, and started in 3 games for Michigan State last year at right tackle. So Boyd is hoping to compete with Khalil Benson for that right tackle spot come this fall. In general, between these 3 additions, Colorado now stands with not only a completely new line, but depth which they did not have last year. Once injuries started hitting Colorado, they struggled with keeping players in their proper positions as well as on the field. This added depth should help in the case of injuries and give Colorado the much needed amount of linemen that every team should have. On the other side of the ball, Colorado added more defensive players that could factor in right away, along with some players who have several years of eligibility. The biggest add that should factor in right away is linebacker Nakai Hill Green from Charlotte. Nakai is a 4-star rated transfer who originally started his career at Michigan before playing at Charlotte last year. In his career, Green has 83 tackles, 2 sacks, and 11 tackles for a loss. With linebacker being one of the leanest positions on the team, Green should factor in day one for Colorado. Another defensive ad that could also factor in right away, but especially long term, is cornerback Colton Hood from Auburn. Hood, a 4-star transfer, was supposed to factor in as a potential starter for Auburn, meaning he should compete right away, but he also brings 4 years of eligibility. Hood also helped in on the side, getting his brother to also commit to Colorado. The 2024 running back commit will join his brother this fall at Boulder. Colorado also got a commit from transfer RJ Johnson out of Arkansas. RJ is very familiar with the Hood brothers and part of the reason that he ended up at Colorado. RJ should factor in at the safety position in the backfield, as Colorado is in need of some depth there after losing a few younger players to the portal this past cycle. Finally, Colorado added 2 more defensive linemen in 3-star Tawfiq Thomas and Ryan Buell. Buell is an interesting one as a senior who started in community college. Then Thomas, who comes to Colorado via Louisville, factored into their rotation over the last couple of years, playing in 22 games. With 2 years of eligibility, Thomas could factor into the rotation for next year and beyond. Colorado still has spots on its roster, so we may not be done just yet. Make sure you stay tuned for more and follow us along to find out when we add more recruits. As for the high school side of recruiting, Colorado had a massive visit list for the spring game. So far, 3 players that visited this past weekend to the team did commit for the 2025 class and will join Colorado next fall. Those included 3-star linebacker Mantrez Walker, who we have of course covered extensively and has been linked to Colorado for over a year. However, joining Walker is 3-star tight end Corbin Lazier out of Tennessee and 4-star cornerback Alex Graham from IMG. Lazier brings some much needed depth for the tight end spot and comes with some good athletic ability where he also excelled at basketball. On the opposite side, Alex Graham is a big get for Colorado, continuing the trend of IMG commits to go along with players like Jordan Seaton and Cash Cleveland. Graham's recruiting profile says that he is a playmaking DB that has played well alongside 2024's top corner Ellis Robinson, who ended up going to Georgia. Graham is known for not shying away from hits and getting involved in run defense as well. Graham helps Colorado replace long-term depth at the cornerback spot after the departure of highly recruited Cormani McClain. Of all the additions this spring, let us know who you were most excited for and who you think will be the biggest game changer come this fall on the roster. Let us know in the comments down below. Moving on to the spring game, which I did attend this past weekend, we saw a number of interesting things that I'll be able to point out. However, due to the weather, I did not get as much footage as I originally wanted, but the weather did allow for some behind-the-scenes footage, which you will be seeing here momentarily. Since Colorado moved their outdoor fan activities into the practice facility, which also hosted all of Colorado's recruits, we got to see the massive line of recruits checking in for their visit. Seeing the line go out the door shows that the transfers and recruits so far committed may not be the only ones. On top of that, there were a number of celebrities in attendance, including Terrell Owens and trending boxer Ryan Garcia on the sidelines. The actual game brought some interesting tidbit fans should keep an eye on if you missed it. Heading into the game, Colorado only had 1 healthy running back, meaning that redshirt freshman wide receiver Isaiah Harge got time at halfback, even breaking a 40-yard run for a touchdown. Seeing how good Harge looked, one could see him possibly fill the spot of departing Dylan Edwards in different packages within the offense. Freshman Jordan Seaton, who everybody will be watching very closely, had a rough start, allowing 2 quarterback pressures and 1 sack on the first 2 plays. But as I watched him more, he settled in and started playing much better as the game went on. Finally, the other big performers were, of course, Shedeur Sanders and his wide receivers, with LaJohntay Wester, Travis Hunter and Omarion Miller all getting a number of catches, including a touchdown by Wester. Overall, the experience was fun, and we were glad to have bought club passes to stay out of the elements, as the game had a downpour of rain and cold all day. Now, one of the best stories out of the weekend, and one I want to highlight because it seems that the national media has completely passed it by, was something that happened just before the spring game in the locker room. Longtime walk-on running back Charlie Offerdahl was finally given a scholarship for next season.
What about a scholarship? Yeah!
Charlie was someone who stuck with the team when Coach Prime came in and just put his head down and worked. Offerdahl always seemed to make big plays in practice and just works hard. When many in the media are clear to point out the players leaving in their comments about Coach Prime having favoritism or not caring about who they are, Charlie Offerdahl stands as the example that that is just not true when you show up, work hard, and do exactly what they want you to do. Everyone could lead by example from just seeing Charlie and what he was able to accomplish with this team. So far, Charlie has been featured in NIL commercials as well as the Coach Prime documentary last year. In the video announcing the scholarship, Coach Prime is seen getting emotional, embracing both Charlie and his parents who were in the locker room when the announcement was made. With all the recent hate being flung at Colorado, we hope that this story and video of Charlie gets some more attention to show just how much Coach Prime truly cares for the kids who do the right thing. Thank you guys so much for watching and sticking with this longer episode. As we head into the next few dead weeks until Memorial Day, we will do our best to provide stuff each and every week. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you know when our videos drop. But for Buffs News Weekly, I'm Russ Dornish. Sco Buffs!
Give me my theme music!